A few weeks ago, I went and ranked every single credit card in the entire Capital One lineup. And one of the things that stood out the very most out of those rankings were that the Venture X and the SavorOne rewards both placed as S tier cards, meaning that they were the highest ranking possible out of all the Capital One credit cards. Not only were these individually the highest two ranked cards, but oftentimes people put these two together to form the Capital One duo in their wallet. So what I wanted to look at today is, does Capital One just have the duo mastered? Does this duo beat every other duo or trifecta out there? And is all you really need to win the credit card game the SavorOne rewards and the Capital One Venture X? I wanted to take an in-depth look at these two cards today because credit cards are becoming increasingly complex. Is it possible the answer the whole time is just pairing two great cards that work together to get great value from earnings, but also great potential for travel rewards? That may be true, so I'm going to break this down in 4 parts. First, teaching you exactly how the setup works and what card does what. I'll show you the very most powerful parts of the setup, which is essentially the reason the duo got the reputation that it does have today. Finally, I'll give you a real-life spending example, how much you could expect to earn in 1 year with typical spending on both of these cards. And then I'll reveal the surprising downsides that most people don't realize about this duo until they've actually got it themselves. So let's talk about how the setup works starting from the beginning. This is a 2-card setup. Sometimes it's used with many other credit cards in a 5 or 6 card wallet, where these 2 cards are working as a travel card and also filling specific categories. But more commonly, it's used as the 2 main cards that anybody holds and really just focuses all of their spending divided between the Venture X and SavorOne rewards. We'll start with the first card, which is the luxury travel card, but also the catch-all card in the setup used for the majority of the spending, and that card is the Capital One Venture X. The Venture X earns 10x on hotels and rental cars booked through Capital One Travel, 5x on flights, also booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles back on every single other purchase. The Venture X has really good earnings in elevated categories, but the true place it stands out is that 2x multiplier on everything else. When you compare it to other cards like the Platinum or the Sapphire Reserve, those cards just don't earn good on consistent everyday spending, and that's where you can really stack up miles using the Venture X. Not to mention, it's got a 75,000 mile standard sign-up bonus, which is worth at least $750 when redeemed for travel. You can get that bonus down below in the link in my description if you're interested at any point in applying for that card. However, the earnings rates and the welcome bonus aren't the only features. People also get and keep this card for the long haul because of some of the ingrained benefits that it also carries. It's going to get you lounge access for Capital One lounges, Plaza Premium, and Priority Pass. You can also bring a number of other guests in with you. You'll get a $100 TSA or Global Entry PreCheck, which will cover you for 4 years of that benefit, a cell phone protection policy which kicks in as long as you're paying your cell phone using that card, and a $300 travel credit that comes with the card and renews every single year. I've personally used all of these benefits, and I actually have many dedicated videos on this channel just with 15 to 20 minutes of content only about this card, and it's one of my favorite travel cards personally. If you subscribe, I'll encourage you to check out some of those dedicated videos after you're done with this one. However, in a duo, this card doesn't just operate by itself, and before we talk about the SavorOne rewards, it's important to know that this card carries a $395 annual fee. So it can be a massive commitment and a big jump for a lot of people who are cautious about annual fee credit cards. I personally feel like the annual fee pays for itself, especially with a $300 travel credit and a 10,000 mile bonus that you get at the end of every single year. However, that annual fee is one big part to consider when you're thinking about your credit card strategy in general. Now let's talk about the SavorOne rewards and what role this plays in your duo setup. This card plays the role of the elevated earnings card, which means you pull it out at strategic times when you're spending in very specific categories to make the very most of every single dollar that you have to spend. The card earns 3x back in dining, entertainment, streaming, and groceries. It also offers a $200 sign-up bonus, which is perfectly in line with its peers, and again, You can help support the channel if you decide to go for this card by using the link in the description of this video if you choose to apply. It's got a $0 annual fee, so fortunately it does balance the VentureX out by not adding another dollar amount that you'd have to pay every single year just to hold the card. I will say 3x on dining and 3x on groceries is some of the best earning rates in its class. For a $0 annual fee card, you're often having to go to annual fee cards to actually see earnings rates that high in other issuers. Where it gets really good is when I put these two cards together down the road in the video and show you just how much you can earn when you spend with them in the right categories. I think you'll be really shocked by the impact that makes every single year. The last really cool factor I want to highlight is this card does earn for entertainment spending, and it gets 3% back in that category. Entertainment is such an under-thought of category because people spend big amounts, but they spend it inconsistently. So you don't realize how much you're actually spending in entertainment until you look back on the numbers in total. For example, it's football season, and football spend if you go to a game, well, that all codes as entertainment. And if you spend what the average family does, which is around $630 to go to an NFL game, well, just by charging that to the SavorOne, you're putting $20 back on that day into your pocket for that value. I also want to mention the card earns 5% back on hotels and rental cars when you book those through Capital One Travel, and it earns a flat 1% back on everything else. That's important to know if you're just going to get the SavorOne by itself, but when used in the duo, since the VentureX out-earns this card in those categories, you'll always be putting that spend on your travel card. Now, let's talk about how we can use these two cards together. And this becomes the very most powerful part of the duo itself. Before I explain why they're so good when put together, I want to tell you about our video sponsor for today, which is our partners over at Kudos. Kudos makes earning more credit card rewards from your normal spending effortless. It's a free browser extension that assists you when shopping online. It lives up in your toolbar, and right when you go to check out online at one of Kudos' thousands of partner merchants, it springs into action. What I love about the extension is that say you're choosing between one of the Capital One Duo cards. Depending on the site that you're on, Kudos automatically recognizes that category purchase and goes ahead and suggests the correct card for you. Not only that, it auto-fills your credit card information, meaning it's just 1 or 2 clicks for you to actually go and check out. Finally, Kudos offers bonus rewards on every single purchase. So you might earn 2x miles with the VentureX on your purchase, but Kudos will double those rewards in their own currency, so you're effectively earning twice the amount just by buying the stuff you normally already are buying. Kudos has a special offers for viewers of this channel. They'll give you enough points for a $20 gift card after your first purchase at one of their partner merchants. All you have to do is go down to the link in the description, sign up for Kudos using code GUARANTEE once you do. Go ahead and make that first purchase, and then boom, enough Kudos points for a $20 Amazon gift card will appear in your account. Stop leaving money on the table, make sure to use code GUARANTEE so they know we sent you, and start earning more rewards with Kudos today. All right, I want to talk about the most powerful part of this setup, which is the synergy between both cards. With both of these cards, you have the ability to pool your earnings together, meaning spending on the Capital One SavorOne rewards card is not just limited to cashback anymore. In fact, even though it's marketed as a cashback card, when paired with the VentureX, you could take all of your earnings on the SavorOne and send them over to become miles to use on your VentureX. Capital One offers you a fair, flat rewards conversion, meaning 1 cent equals 1 mile when sent over to your VentureX. That means $100 earned on your SavorOne card in cashback can become 10,000 miles on your VentureX card, which means you could buy $100 worth of plane tickets, hotels, etc. through the Capital One travel portal to get your travel redemptions going. However, this also opens the door for you to take those miles, transfer them out to any one of Capital One's partners, and maybe make that $100 in value become $150, $175, or even more depending on the redemption. Now, warning, while you can take SavorOne cashback and turn it into miles, the opposite conversion doesn't work. So keep that in mind before looking at either of these cards for your setup. All right, let's break down the real life earnings of this duo. One of my favorite ways to do this is look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has data for the average person in the United States, exactly how much they spend and in which categories. We can take all of this data and plug it in using our spending categories that are best on the Venture X and also the spending categories that are best in the SavorOne, exactly how you or I would go ahead and use this duo in real life. When you do that together, the average person in a year's spending earn 81,228 miles a year. When you redeem that for travel rewards in the portal, that's $812 a year just based off your normal spending. It also, of course, has the potential to be much more if you decide to transfer those miles out to different transfer partners. Now, I've done a lot of comparison of other credit card setups, different trifectas, and also just analyzing individual cards when running through those numbers. And I will say that the Capital One Duo has some of the best earnings out there of any potential popular setup. I love how the Capital One Duo head-to-head can beat out the Chase trifecta in earnings, and it also beats it in simplicity, only having to manage 2 cards instead of 3. I also love how it beats the Amex trifecta on annual fees. And with the Capital One Duo, you don't have to play the coupon game and keep track of all these different credits. Now, I did just highlight a ton of the strengths of this duo and show you why so many people swear by these 2 cards. However, there are a few surprising downsides about these 2 you have to know about before going in. And it's a lot of these that you actually don't realize until you're experiencing it yourself. Problem number 1, approval difficulty. I've been lucky personally, but Capital One is really known for being a super tricky card issuer to get approved and accepted on their different cards. This can be an especially big problem if you've been in the credit card game for a while and have a number of different credit cards under your belt. Because of this, you may want to be strategic about the way you go about getting this set up. I suggest the Venture X first because you'll be doing most of your category spending there and it gets more meaningful earnings in the long run. Then, if you want to add the SavorOne rewards, I would suggest waiting 6 months before you apply and then hopefully get accepted for that card. There are some data points saying that recently Capital One has backed that timeline down more towards 3 months between applications for their cards, but I still suggest 6 months just to be very safe. The second one, and this is a big one, is the lack of viable transfer partners for domestic redemptions that Capital One offers. Now, the further you get into the credit card game, the more you start to value the different transfer partner options that you have. Capital One has 18 different transfer partners. That's not a problem in and of itself. In fact, it's more than most banks. However, of the 18, there's absolutely no domestic airline partners. Now, if you travel internationally even just once per year, this isn't probably going to be a problem for you. You'll have tons of different options to redeem your miles. But if you're flying domestically, of course, you can try to really get complex with this and book United flights through Turkish Airlines, Miles and Smiles, and other workarounds, but really, domestic availability can be a big hit or miss proposition when you go down those routes. Chase, for example, has United and Southwest, and it's worth mentioning Hyatt for hotels because there's such great value there. Where Amex has the Delta relationship, which is fantastic for them, Citi has JetBlue, and then Bilt has Alaska and United themselves. Problem number 3 is actually making bookings within Chase Travel. Dealing with a third party, which is any travel portal in the credit card game, is always going to be a more complex thing when you've got to rearrange your flights or make quick last-second decisions on the fly in an airport. Always going to be better working with the airline directly, and that only happens when you book your flights with the airlines directly. Every card issuer has a portal, and you could choose to book or redeem in those. However, the lack of transfer partners with Capital One, that's going to force you into spending your miles in the portal more often, maybe more often than you'd like. And then finally, my last thing, and this is a little petty, is the Venture X looks like a phenomenal card for lounge access. In fact, it's the card I use right now. However, if you're looking for the best of the best lounges, it's not going to be that. The Amex Platinum card is the #1 leader, I would say followed by the Chase Sapphire Reserve with some of the lounges that they give you access to there. Capital One with the Priority Pass partnership can lead to some really hit or miss lounges, so just beware not to overvalue that benefit too much. At the end of the day, it's hard to knock a simple but really cost-effective setup that does so much so well. I still see this as some of the best decision making you can make when you're trying to build out a really strong wallet. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts on my review of this down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.